Well, I thought that the very initial few moments of the game were a little bit shaky. I thought that Atlanta could have scored in the first 5 minutes of the game. And after that, we sort of responded the way that I thought we would. The guys pressed really well. I thought they put a lot of energy and met the resistance that Atlanta brought because they've got some promising young talent. And as the game in the first half wore on and we scored, I thought we got a good foothold in the game and controlled the first half. Second half, I thought we were very happy to sit on the lead and probably didn't manage the game as well as I would have liked. We made some changes and got some fresh legs on and people that needed minutes. But overall, against a good MLS developmental group like that, a 3-0 win with a clean sheet is what matters. I thought it was a good performance.
When you go into the half with a 3-0 lead, coming out of the locker room, is there a desire to get that one more to maybe put it away, or were you kind of content to just sit on the lead after halftime?
No, I think we had an opportunity to score the fourth goal. We were talking about it on the bench. It just didn't come. Mm-hmm. And I think we might have had a different outcome in the way the second half was played out. We talked about it at halftime, complacency and not letting that set in. But I think it's very natural when you've got a 3-goal cushion to sort of not feel as if you've got to go for the fourth.
How good was it to see Daniel Rios back on the score sheet after a couple missed chances in the past matches?
Great. He's been our most prolific goal scorer. He holds the ball up well, and I think what a lot of people don't realize is the amount of energy and contribution he gives when we don't have the ball. He presses relentlessly, puts a lot of energy into the defending side of the game, and you don't get that out of a lot of good forwards.
Gary, when you can't be on the touchline, how comforting is it to have a guy with Brett's experience to kind of take that role in the game?
Well, I've got to say, look, it's the first time I've had to sit in the stand and look from afar. Delighted to have Brett alongside me, of course. We have a lot of history, a lot of understanding. I think that continuity on the technical staff is vitally important in these moments. I may never have understood just how important it was unless I'd have been in this position. I'm extremely disappointed to be away from the bench on such an important day, last game of the season. We should all be feeling extremely pleased with the way that we've performed, with the progression we've made, with some of the stats that we've improved on. We sit here top of the table, and to be honest, the only frustration is that there can't be a celebration or a disappointment on one day because Pittsburgh play tomorrow. So we're left in that void of, okay, are we or aren't we Eastern Conference winners? And I honestly think that, as far as a quality league like the USL, with the way that it's grown, we should all be in that position. Why is there one game on a Sunday? Completely different argument, I'm sure, but that's my only frustration today. But back to your question, absolutely delighted. It couldn't have gone any better in the first half. As Brett said, there were some things when you look on from a slightly different perspective that you see, and it looked like the guys felt as though they'd done their job, and it just looked a little flat in the second half, which I've seen many times. We're not the only team to fall foul of that.
Particularly with the ball in the second half, was there anything that you wish you could have been on that sideline for to make that adjustment? Something that maybe could have bothered you going forward in terms of
not
how
really. Brett did everything that needed to be done. There was an issue with Rapapa at half time. We'd had plenty of discussion before the game started. I had to leave the locker room as the guys went out to warm up, and at that point they're on their own. And to be honest, I was more than comfortable with the bodies that were in there, and Brett leading that they were going to make the right decisions, and they did. I don't think there's any way of, when you get in that position where players have really, when you think about it, against a young side who, again, Brett has already said, very talented. There's a lot of future in those boys. But what they do lack is a little bit of experience, and at 3-0 the game's done. It's finished. Our lads know that. The game's won. I think at that point, it's a very, very different mindset for professionals. It's about pushing on and getting what you need out of the game. So, for example, for Cameron and for Daniel, for Derek that came on, they needed good minutes. They needed to really push themselves in a game that was already won, but this is about being ready for the playoffs, for the back line. Keep a clean sheet. Matt Pickens, Golden Glove, fantastic achievement, wonderful goalkeeper in person, as we spoke about earlier on in the week. It takes some pride in keeping holding onto a clean sheet. And for the forwards, to be honest, my biggest disappointment was that there wasn't really any cutting edge when we got into that final third. There were moments we looked like, but there wasn't really a lot there, The ball wasn't quite, played in early enough, it wasn't quite accurate enough, the touch or final finish wasn't good enough, and that really was the story of the second half. It just looked like it really didn't quite happen. But listen, when all said and done, we needed to win, we won well, we're going to the playoffs in a good frame of mind, with good momentum, and we'll all look forward to Saturday week.
Brett, Gary kind of, implied that some of the changes were kind of planned ahead of time, but was there a time where you're on the sideline, especially early before maybe the second and third goals, where thinking through plans to make different changes in case the game doesn't kind of go the way you guys have been hoping?
Yeah, we played through a million different scenarios on what could happen if we had an injury here or somebody, we had any number of problems. What would we do? The great thing about this team and the way he's put it together is there's depth at every position. Really, at this point in the year, the team picks itself in many ways, and the team's on autopilot in many ways. The guys know and understand their roles and responsibilities, and now it's about knowing your job, and I think it's clear to everybody. So I didn't have a whole lot of guesswork in that.
Matt wrapped up the Golden Glove tonight, and I believe your side's conceded the fewest goals in the league. How does it feel going into the playoffs, knowing that defensively your side is so sound?
We've spoken about this an awful lot. The defenders, Matt, I always put in that group, are no different to the attackers. They'll be confident about what they can achieve, how they work together. I think when we discuss what a back line or a group looks like who have conceded such few goals and the best group in the league, you forget about the work that goes on in front of the back line. Honestly, tonight, for me, I know Daniel got man of the match, and I'm absolutely delighted for him. But again, I'm seeing it from a very different perspective up there. Two best players on the field, Bolu and Matt Lagrassa. They were outstanding. And what you can see up there, which is why it's always nice to get a different angle, not in the way I've got it, but sometimes Brett pops up there and he can see a different dimension, is the distances, is when they go to press, the choices they make, their appreciation of the ball, when they switch, when they can play in tight areas and they play quickly. The pair of them were outstanding. Really, really pleased with them. And as far as the group goes, you're going to see multiple games before now and after where groups get undone, even good teams, because it's far too easy to play from the front line, which would be Daniel and Lebo, through the midfield and expose the back line. You can have the best defenders in the world, but if you haven't got good screens and a real disciplined approach when needed in front, you ask them. It's really, really tough. It's a combined effort. There's a lot that goes into it. In the first half, there was some exposure down the right-hand side, because Rapapa got done on 3 give and goes in the first half. Now we know what he can do going forward, but if you're playing against the top teams, then that starts to become a little bit of an issue when people get exposed. So it is when all said and done, the type of statistics that we've put up is for the team. It's not for any one individual. Matt's going to take a lot of accolades, and he should do for that, because he's a very, very good goalkeeper, and I'm really pleased for him. But it's a team effort, and it's a team mentality.